The new channel. The new channel. Hashtag TNC Now.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following shows are those of the host, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the new channel. Our passion transforms a community that sees all things new. I am Alpha Sanford and I'm streaming live from Boston, Massachusetts. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, mabuhay. Welcome to Once a Teacher, Always a Teacher on the new channel. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being with us this wonderful time. I appreciate you giving us your ears and listening to our show. If you're listening and if you're watching, thank you for watching. So for today's topic, we will be talking with a wonderful and dedicated Filipino who is a leader, not just in the academic setting, but also in the community setting. She is a very active member of the Filipino American community here in Massachusetts and actually the entire New England area. Our topic today is really about getting to know our guest from her transitioning as a clinical nurse to an academic director for the Practical Nursing Academy that is housed at a regional VOCTEC here in Massachusetts. But before we get to converse with our guest today, let me just share with you a little bit about her. Okay, so here is a little story about our guest. In 1989, she traveled about 8,500 miles to Boston for the proverbial American dream. She was 22 then, and she was hired as an entry-level registered nurse for a rehab hospital. She then relished her adventures in New England, and to her, life was grand. And then all of a sudden, right, she fell in love, and in January 11th of 1991, after a year of dating, Joseph and her became man and wife. They were blessed with their first daughter, whose name is Jessica, and they bought a home. And then their second child, Gino, came along. She then worked the chain of command from staff and then charge to becoming a supervisor to becoming a director of quality improvement. She also participated in many medical missions. She also published various articles, sold two oil paintings, wrote songs, and even took a course at the Harvard University. For her, again, life is great. And then after that, after Jessica and Gino came, two more blessings followed into her growing family. She and her husband Joseph were then blessed by having Lily, then Max. They soon moved to a bigger home, and as a family, they've traveled to various charitable activities and cultural events. She is currently the practical nursing program director, and she loves to write and she does some freelance writing. She was also part actress. In fact, she landed a gig in a Sandra Bullock movie, which let's get to ask her about this later. This movie is entitled The Proposal. Myself, I don't know about that yet, but it's something that I probably need to check because a Filipino is there, right? So life is grand for her. And then, as an ambitious and very talented Filipina, she continued to search more. Um, she turned 50 in December, and then she also obtained a doctorate degree, which was a logical step for somebody like her. She got a doctorate degree in health administration. She wanted to share the quote from Ben Franklin, which says, "If you would not be forgotten as soon as you are dead and run, either write things worth reading or do things worth writing." So, without further ado, let's bring in our very special guest for today, Dr. And I'm going to call her Dr. Gretheline Bolandrina. Gretheline, come on in.
Hello.
Hello, Gretheline. Thank you for being our guest for today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, how are you doing?
I'm very good. I'm very excited. This is wonderful.
Great, great. Um, Tell us how you have been since the beginning of this school year.
Very amazed, very challenged. There's a lot going on. We're actually on our third year with the curriculum with COVID in tow.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we're still having successful graduates and having them gainfully employed. A lot of them sending back reports of how they hurdled the NCLEX PN, passing on the first try. And these are all adult students with families and work and going to school. And then finally, in 10 short months, achieving what they wanted to be, which is to become a nurse.
That's wonderful. So, are your students all back in person right now, or are your courses still in hybrid mode?
No, we're fully in person.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
great.
Academics and clinical.
That's wonderful. So, our topic for today is really about your life. We are so interested about your life as someone who had transitioned from the clinical setting to the hospital, from the clinical setting to the classroom setting. And also, this is our first time to actually have someone who is an academic director at a vocational technical high school, but not really. So we'll digest more of that later. So tell us all about your life transitioning from the clinical nurse piece, which I understand you were a rehab nurse for over 18 years, right? And
Correct.
now, in the academic setting. Tell us about
Yes.
that.
everything seemed to have been accidental. Being a nurse was accidental, and then being a teacher is accidental. um, I grew up from a family of educators. My mom was a nurse, a teacher, I should say, and all her sisters are teachers, except for one. She has one sister who's a nurse. And my dad's biggest thing is become a nurse and go to the US. So I did work for a year in the Philippines at the Philippine General Hospital after graduating at the University of Santo Tomas. And coming to Boston as a entry-level nurse, I was there for 5 years. Rehab was my thing because rehab was my specialty also in the Philippines. But as a rehab nurse in Milford, I had seen clinical instructors bringing nursing students to our facility. And some of them are just hanging around, really technically hiding from their instructor.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see them and I'm going to do a procedure, or because it's a teaching facility, I would say, I'm going to do, say, a wound dressing. Do you want to come watch? Or I'm going to change an IV. Do you want to come watch? And I love to talk. So to the point that when students come, they're now looking for me instead of looking for their instructor.
Oh.
So eventually that instructor recruited me into teaching. That was back in 2005.
Wow.
So I became a clinical instructor for Mass Bay Community College. That was my initial entry into the academic world.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same way, having students in the clinical setting, as they're doing certain procedures with me now, and I'm critiquing and I'm saying, okay, supposedly you had passed this procedure in lab. Who checked you off because this is not standard, this is not up to par, or what have you? So eventually I got pulled into teaching laboratory also.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I was in lab, then they're saying, oh, okay, lecture-wise, this is what they're saying again. And I said, well, how is that possible? Because book-wise or textbook-wise, it should be this way. So it's almost always like when I'm questioning things, I get pulled into it. But at that point, I was only BSN prepared. And pay-wise, the scale is huge. BSN was at that point only $50 an hour, whereas an MSN prepared gets $75 an hour. Yet you're teaching the same thing.
Oh, wow.
It's
Yeah.
only the academic background that's different. So I said, oh, why don't I go back and get my MSN? In that way, I get paid more doing the same exact thing. So I did my MSN part-time while I was still working full-time. And then when I finished my MSN, the goal was to land into a full-time faculty position.
Which you
And that's
did.
how I entered into BayPath, because BayPath had the only full-time faculty position open at that time.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Now, what a journey. What a journey that was, Gretheline. Like a twist and turn, but then now you're here in the academic setting.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about BayPath.
Mhm.
My understanding is where you are. You are with post-secondary students. It is housed at the Voc Tech, but it's not really a Voc Tech. So describe to us first the PNA, which stands for the Practical Nursing Academy. What is that all about? How does it look like? And how does that fit into the BayPath, which is not really, a community college, but it is in the Voc Tech high school setting. So tell us all
Yeah.
about that.
So BayPath Practical Nursing Academy is a post-secondary program that is housed within BayPath Regional Vocational Technical High School. So in itself, BayPath Regional Vocational Technical High School is the parent organization, but the Practical Nursing Program, or the BayPath Practical Nursing Academy, is a post-secondary program that enrolls adult students.
Mm.
So in the physicality of it, on campus, regular school hours from 7 a.m. to 2:30, you see all the high school kids. But
Right.
after 2:30, the entire building converts into an adult education program. The Practical Nursing Academy being one of the in-house regulars, because they also do night school, adult programs that are more for the retired clientele, if you will. They do line dancing, stained glass, crochet sometimes. Sometimes I take yoga classes there as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so let's go back in terms of the requirements of eligibility for admission for the
Mhm.
PNA. If I
So
were
eligibility, yeah, it includes at least being 18 years old or 17 and a half at the
Mhm.
very minimum, 18, have completed high school,
Okay.
of good moral character. There are 6 key questions that the Board of Registration in Nursing requires a no answer to. You know, have you ever been convicted of a crime, stuff like that. Sort of like a Corey type question.
Uh-huh.
Passing an entrance exam, which is given by ATI, which stands for Assessment Technologies Institute. It is a 4-subject test, about 3 hours in length, that checks your competency in reading, math, English, and science. We require 3 professional references from 3 individuals who have known you for over a year in 3 different capacities. So a supervisor, a coworker, someone from a volunteer activity or church. And then we interview you.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're a good fit for us, we're a good fit for you, then you're preliminary admitted to the academy. Full admission into the academy includes a 12-panel drug screen, physical requirements, having been able to lift, pull, push at least 50 pounds of weight, stand for at least 2 hours at a time, walk, all those kind of stuff. Good vision, hearing.
Mm-hmm. So if I were a student interested in enrolling at the PNA, what is my financial commitment?
We participate in financial aid with the
Okay.
federal government. So there's FAFSA. There's FAFSA eligibility as well. And there are multiple scholarships available.
Mm-hmm.
Tuition is very competitive, lower than community colleges, actually. The entire 10-month program is 45 credits, and tuition is 14,500 for that 45 credits, which is divided into 3 terms.
Okay.
Term 1 from June to December, August, I should say, August to December. Term 2 is January to the middle of April, and then term 3, middle of April to June, to graduation.
Now, for that 10-month course, does that already include the clinical practicum setting?
Yes, it does. So the first
wow.
4 weeks, from the middle of August to the middle of September, we front load you with everything that is academic.
Mhm.
By middle of September, we start doing skills laboratory, and then your eligibility to go to clinicals. In total, the 10 months for clock hours is 1,097 hours, 546 of which is clinical, which is face-to-face.
I see. Now, do you do a rolling basis admission, or is it only a set time of the year for the admission?
We do rolling basis, but we only admit a maximum of 40 students.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
40 students every 10
Every year,
years.
because we
every
only
year.
do 1 class per year. Yep. So we're a tiny school, full-time faculty. There's only 2. We have about 12 part-time faculty because with the 40 students, our faculty to student ratio for clinical maximum is 1:8. We don't take more than 8 students in a clinical site with 1 facilitator.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a huge, huge change, because when I was a nursing student in the Philippines, academics, one professor for 50 students.
Yeah, well, in a lot of
Yeah.
sense, they're lucky to have, two full-time faculty to 40 students.
Hmm.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right, Gretheline. So say, for example, I am done with this course.
Hmm.
What do I need to do next? Or what is my job outlook after I'm done with my practical nursing academy?
Very, very positive job outlook. Preparation actually starts right when you start the program. We
Oh,
prepare
wow.
you for
Yeah.
NCLEX PN, which is the ultimate test, if you will.
Yeah.
Completing the 10-month program gives you a certificate in practical nursing. But as soon as you're done with that certificate, you sit for the boards, they call it, which is NCLEX PN, and become an LPN.
Mm.
Once an LPN, you get hired by hospitals and other long-term care places. And the going rate right now for new grads, our graduates that just passed NCLEX for 2022, they're starting at least $40 an hour.
That's great.
Yeah. No
Wow.
less than 30 is the thing, actually. And sometimes we have graduates that, or students that get hired even before they graduate because we do mock interviews on term 3. We have a course
Mhm.
called Transition into Nursing, which is only a 1 credit course, but
Mhm.
we arm them with all the necessary things that they need to transition into becoming a licensed practical nurse. So for that particular course, we go over their resume, we do mock interviews, and for the mock interviews, we ask for volunteers from the community. So usually the directors of nursing at nursing homes, they come and they preliminary screen the nurses that they want to work for them. So they get offered jobs before they even graduate.
Wow. I feel like this is such a good investment when it comes to their financial commitment of around 14,000. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
such a great alternative for those who are seeking to enter the medical school or the nursing school, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And our school, Baypath Practical Nursing Academy, has an affiliation agreement with Worcester State University and Fitchburg State University, in that the 10 months they have with us, plus having passed the NCLEX PN as an
Mhm.
LPN, if they decide to join the bridge program at Worcester State University or at Fitchburg State University, they get admitted as a sophomore. They count the 10 months with us with the LPN license as their freshman year in college. So they don't start all over again.
Wow. Wow. What a great option. This is such a great
Yeah.
option, Gretheline. All right. Now that you have shared with us the PNA and all of those wonderful things for potential students, let's talk about your life as an academy director. I'd like to know, Gretheline, how is it like to be an academy director?
It's exciting. Oh, again, this is another accidental thing that happened to me. I was
Okay.
full-time faculty at Baypath,
Uh-huh.
and I was hired in 2013. So the first class that graduated with me as a faculty there was 2014. But in 2015, the program director had to leave. And since I had the same credentials as her, I was MSN prepared. They said, "Oh, can you take over until we hire someone? Could you be the interim director until we get someone?" So I said, "Sure." Like, what choice did I have? There was no director. So fine, I'll do it. And then after a few months, they were like, "Oh, well, you're doing so well. Why don't we like prepare the package, and would you be willing to accept being the director?" So I said, "Sure."
Why
And I've
not?
been director since. So
Wow.
it's pretty funny, but it allows me a lot of creativity, a lot of leeway, flexibility, so that I could really influence so many lives,
Mhm.
starting from just doing information sessions every third Thursday of the month, to
I think we just lost Gretheline at this time.
Am I cut
So,
off? I'm
okay,
sorry.
now it's back. All right, Gretheline.
Okay.
Okay,
So
I just lost you for
I
a few
would
minutes.
do I would do
She's
information sessions, and after a presentation, I have a usual PowerPoint, how to get into the program, what activities that we do and stuff like that. And someone would come up to me and say, it seemed like you were talking to me directly. Like, this is my time. And so come to find out, second career, they're burnt out from whatever job it was they had, but they always wanted to become a nurse. And so by attending the info session and hearing from success stories on our program, they're like, this is it. This is the sign that I was looking for, stuff like that. And it's just amazing. You know how they have that saying where nobody comes into your life for no reason at all. There's always a reason why your paths cross and all that. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, Gretheline, tell us your typical day at work.
Typical day at work. I'm not a morning person.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
one thing that I don't miss from being a clinical person, having to wake up at 7 if I have to be on a 7 to 3 shift or even earlier. With this, I'm flexible because it's an evening program.
Okay.
So I don't walk in until like 9:30, 10 a.m. at the most. But I do stay late. If I have to be there until 7 p.m., then I'll be there until 7, because the classes for our students are 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. and clinicals are 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. So I walk in. Usually it's a lot of paperwork that I deal with between contracts for the school and the clinical sites. We get a lot of requests from the community for blood pressure screenings or finger stick blood sugars. A lot of requests from even middle schools in the Charlton area for hearing and vision screening.
Okay.
We believe in service learning. Anything that allows us to be involved with the community, I usually involve my students and faculty. We have a wonderful faculty that are also very involved. One of our younger faculty, her passion is Alzheimer's care, dementia. So we do the Alzheimer's walk, We always just connect everything into what would make you a better nurse, what would make you a prudent nurse, knowing all these other things that's going on in the world. So do the paperwork. I usually have student appointments, either for advising or if someone's having difficulty, I do remediation. I like to brainstorm with students, the ones that are having difficulty mostly, because nursing school is a different kind of ball game. You can have an A student fresh out of high school, and they go to nursing school and they don't understand why they're not getting A's the same way that they were getting A's in high school. The critical thinking component is something that is usually missing. Comes to that. Right now, actually, my secretary had transitioned to a different role. So I'm also interviewing for a secretary. So that's another one of the things that go up and down in the office. Then I have meetings with my faculty. I have faculty that are very involved. They're innovative. They come up with ideas also to involve learning. I get a lot of calls from alumni. I get some good news, some bad news.
Wow. Busy day, Gretheline.
Very busy day, but very fulfilling. It's always wonderful to have alumni come back and share.
Yeah. So what do you love most about your job?
What do I love most? I think touching lives is the best thing. That's the one I love most. In 2016, we had a student who was homeless.
Oh, okay.
But she had a car, she had a job, she would shower at her job, and seeing her go through the program, involving even my Filipino nurse friends at one point, donating through her for her education. Some of my Filipino friends from Philippine Nurses Association donated books, donated money for uniform. Now this girl, she is working on her BSN. She graduated, passed the boards the first try, got engaged. She has 2 kids now, got married, 2 kids, still active in the academe because she's pursuing her BSN. And
Mm-hmm.
every so often, I would get updates also about her kids saying how wonderful her life is. And if you would look back, to say, oh, in 2016, she was in a totally, totally different position. And here she is now. So those are the stories that I love. That's what I love about the job.
Yeah, isn't that great? Like, when you hear the stories from people that you have impacted because of the work that you do, it's just a wonderful emotion that, I'd like, to hold on, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gretel, I'm curious, was there ever a moment in your life as an academic director when you truly realize the importance of being a practical nurse?
But see, my nursing journey is totally different.
Yeah.
I went to nursing school. It was a 4-year program and it was a
Uh-huh.
BSN.
Mm-hmm.
So I really didn't have that whole comparison of how a practical nurse is versus what a registered nurse is. My
Right.
first introduction with an LPN is when I first came to Boston. It wasn't really discussed in the 4 years that I was at USD. Um, but in the US, when I first came, there was a huge distinction of, oh, these are LPNs and there's specific things that they can do and cannot do. And then you are a BSN RN, not so much that you're better, but there's more expected of you because you went to school for 4 years versus
Mm-hmm.
an LPN going to 12 months at that time. So at this point, though, in the healthcare system, and not because I'm the director of a practical nursing program, the distinction is the quality of the nurse, not so much the title.
Okay.
A lot of the hospitals are going back into the care continuum and saying
Mm.
they are hiring LPNs all over again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I think the need is still so much greater because first off, with the pandemic, the baby
Mm-hmm.
boomers all retiring,
Mm-hmm.
the gig economy has a lot to do with it too. So even new grad nurses, they much rather be travel nurses as opposed to being tied down in a regular shift work.
Right.
So it's still huge. The need is ongoing, so as to say.
Mm-hmm. How big do you think is the need for nurses in general here in Massachusetts and in the entire US? Do you have any idea in terms of that?
I don't have exact numbers, but I know that recruitment is still huge.
Mm.
For my school alone, it took a while to fill up the 2 full-time faculty position. Only based on requirements, they want MSN prepared, even with the practical nursing program. So normally they would hire a degree above what you're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So for practical nursing, since it's 10 months, then a BSN would suffice, a full bachelor's, which is 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
But if we wanted to be an accredited school, then 50% of our faculty needs to be master's prepared.
Mm.
And that's a tough thing to do, tough to compete with community colleges and big universities whose
Mm.
pay grade is much higher, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are still wonderful souls that stick with us, stick with the VOTEC and community in general. In fact, one of our faculty, she was at Baypath in 2008, right when they started, right when they opened the school. And she's
Okay.
still with us. She's been retired for 5 years, but she's still part-time with us.
Wow.
Yeah. So truly the
So,
love of nursing is there.
yeah, that's pretty amazing. Gretheline, when we come back, I'd like to take a break for a few minutes. But
Mhm.
when we come back, I'd like to hear from you. What are some of your tips to students or even adults who are considering to try being a practical nurse? All right, so let's talk about that. All right,
Okay.
folks. Yeah, we'll see you in just a few minutes. We'll be right back. The new channel is an online alternative new media platform of online shows for people on the go. Please watch all our shows as seen on screen. Imagine having your own show, your own playlist, your own content, but we make it easier for you. TNC aims to transform the lives of our viewers through engaging, authentic, and original content. Our channel is a responsible, global 24 over 7 platform that showcases Filipino talent, global influencers, cultural intelligence, and ingenuity. Please continue to support Once a Teacher, Always a Teacher on selected Saturdays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can watch live or on replay via Facebook or YouTube. Follow us on IG. Listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Just search hashtag TNC Now. For sponsorships, please email now@thenewchannel.com or send us a DM. Enjoy these life-changing shows because we made them for you. All right, folks, welcome back. I'm hoping that you are taking down notes in terms of all these wonderful insights about the Practical Nursing Academy, and also how is the life of an academic or an academy director. All right, let's continue our conversation with Ms. Gretheline Bolandrina. Gretheline, welcome back.
Hello.
Hello again. All right, so let's talk about some of the tips that you can share to people, maybe even high school graduates who are considering becoming a practical nurse.
I think first and foremost would be your mind believes what you tell it. So if you're going to say, oh, it's going to be a difficult journey, then yes, it's going to be difficult because you already convinced yourself it's difficult. But if you say it's going to be an amazing journey, then it will be an amazing journey. So being open-minded, I think, is the best tip that I could give to anyone that wants to be a nurse.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the ingredients to become a successful practical nurse, aside from what you had just mentioned? Any other ingredients? Time.
Yeah, time management is big. Setting your priorities, because time and time again, I would be advising a student, and it boils down to, well, what is the goal? Is the goal to become a nurse, or is the goal to save money? Or because they would say, oh, I didn't have time to study, I didn't have time to do this because I had to work. Or it's this whole manage your time, set your priorities, and it's in that short 10 months the whole sacrifice will pay off.
And for any student who may need some support, how does the academy support them?
We have a wonderful community of alumni that anytime that I have a need for a student. So our orientation and acceptance ceremony happens in June, right when the graduating class is leaving and the incoming class is coming. We pair them off. We pair off the graduating students with the incoming students, so that the short summer before the incoming students start, they have that support. And then all throughout the academic year, alumni from all years, even the years that I wasn't even involved with BayPath yet, early as the 2012 graduates, when I call for, I need someone to tutor someone struggling with anatomy, they're quick to say, I'm available. And now with pandemic happening too, it's even more feasible, because they can even have now the whole, do you want to just Zoom, as opposed to in the past they would say, okay, where can we meet? Do we meet at Starbucks? Do we meet at Panera? And now it's just as easy to say, let's just do Zoom.
How about, let's just say, somebody who just came from a different country, but this student or adult finished their high school requirements? What are the supports that BayPath through the PNA give to a potential enrollee as this new immigrant?
As a new immigrant, we connect them with a community, the same community that they belong to. We celebrate diversity. In fact, this month, October, we have Filipino American History Month. So I have one Filipino faculty actually, and we do our turn. Yeah, we do potluck. And the class last year had 3 Filipino students. So we did the lumpia, pancit, introduced it to the BayPath community. And we have a large community of African students also. But it's the same with Asians, all different countries. So with Africans, there's Kenya, there's Ghana, and there's the differences and nuances with each culture. We celebrate all that.
Wow. So for somebody who may not have a good grasp of the English language, are there any support for our multilingual learners at BayPath?
There's accommodations for exams.
Okay.
We do have a support system within the high school, within the parent organization, but
Mm-hmm.
usually because the faculty is very diverse, we
Mm-hmm.
also have African faculty and we have regular Caucasian faculty. So we sit down as a faculty when we have our faculty meeting to say, okay, if this student is having difficulty, is it academic 100% or is there a cultural component that's part of it?
Mm,
So we also brainstorm about that.
okay. I'm curious, Gretelin, for your perspective as a parent. You have four kids of your own, and
Mhm.
my understanding is that they're now all grown ups, right?
Yes.
So, for any parent who may not have any idea in terms of this pathway, how do they begin to understand that there is this choice rather than going to community college immediately or going or having their child going into a university immediately after high school? How do they begin to understand that?
I think exposure would be an easy way. Just today, the open house happened for Votech. So the high school itself was open to the entire community to
Mm-hmm.
showcase all the shops that's available. So I think just exposing and having that whole career technical education as a mainstream thing, not so much you have to go to college to be successful. It's finding your passion, finding what you love to do, and that would equate for success. Um, Part of educating the community also is the same way with gender and all that. Instead of saying, "Oh, that is a male nurse,"
Mm,
eliminate the male part. It's that is a nurse. So
mm,
instead of saying that's an LPN, that's an RN, a nurse is a nurse. In the
mm,
same way, career technical education and academic education in a huge university, big university, is education together.
mhm. I love that. So, what would be an important message that parents uh, should hear from you?
An important message with regards to vocational technical,
Yeah,
career technical
yeah,
education, or
yeah. Or
education in general.
you can take it from anywhere, any angle, but particularly with the Practical Nursing Academy and this, pathway.
With this pathway, I think for some individuals, it's the perfect fit.
Mhm.
It's not so much that you have to be university educated or a college product to become successful. There are many avenues. And for some individuals who have so many things to juggle between family, jobs, and then a fulfilling career, this might be a good fit. And 10 months in itself should not be knocked as, oh, 10 months, it couldn't be that good if it's 10 months. It's the screening process, the admission process is so rigorous that we really want to make sure you're a good fit for us and we're a good fit for you. And then the rigors of going through the academic part and the clinical part, you are walking away with the same education and training, if not even more stringent than going to a regular 4-year college degree. And as far as landing a position in the healthcare industry.
Great message. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Gretelin, for that. It seems like you really, really love your work. I can see the passion that you have for this industry. I can see the love that you have for your students. I mean, look at all of the things that you share on LinkedIn. Sometimes I see a few on your Facebook, but actually more so on the cultural aspect of that, right? Um,
Yes.
so I am just curious, is there ever any challenges, or let's just say some parts of your job that you don't like the best?
The challenge is communicating and getting that feedback,
Mm,
because sometimes the college that I went through, UST, is a Catholic university,
uh-huh.
and my training was totally different at the Catholic university. We had nuns, when supervisors walk in, you stand up, and all that old school type, which
Right.
doesn't exist here, because here it's almost equal, almost at a certain point, right? So I'm the gatekeeper, the way I see my role in the academy. So when I walk in and I see, oh, your uniform is incomplete, or the earring has to be no bigger than a dime, and I see someone with dangly earrings, and they're quick to say, well, what's the big deal, so I say, if I don't say anything, then it means I no longer care about you. You should be worried when I don't say anything to you, because it means I don't care about you. But
Yeah.
because I take the time to say, I want you to present yourself as a professional, I want you to look professional, because looks could be deceiving. You could be the best nurse, but then you look like you just rolled out of bed. Nobody would want you to be taking care of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So communicating that, the fine line between caring enough and caring so much, I think that's the part that is difficult for me.
I see. It's like in our world, in the public ad, it's supervision and evaluation. When we talk about teachers and the people, the staff members that we supervise and evaluate. So it seems like it's the feedback, right? In what I heard from you.
Hmm.
Okay, so I was gonna say, how do you deal then in terms of those difficulties? Any self-care techniques that you use as a leader?
Well, I do have the specific spiel, if I
Okay.
may say that, like, for certain students that tend to be not aware of the boundary too. So I have that, we're not friends. When you graduate, pass the boards, become a nurse, then maybe we could be friends. But for
Yeah.
now, there is a distinction between where you are and where I am, so my role is different and all that. So that's one way for me to um, deal with it, by drawing the line. But then there are specific cases where sometimes it just gets to you, to the point that you will say, that's it, I've done my very best.
Yeah.
And you can only, lead the horse to water. You can't make them drink, that type of stuff. And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it would still be, well, I have my family
Right.
who will comfort me, and this is it. And it's a job, and I did my best, and I leave it to God. It goes from there.
True. That's true. So, any last words or any inspirational messages to your current students?
To my current students, I tell them all the time, it's only when you give up that we give up on you. If you don't give up, then 100% all the way. If the goal is to become a nurse, then we're there for you.
Oh, I love it. I love it. They're lucky to have you, Gretheline. And the story that you just shared a few minutes ago about, the impact that you've had on one student who was once a homeless and now who seemed to have a better situation in life is pretty amazing. So, for folks who would like to get in touch with you and would really like to learn more about becoming a practical nurse, how can they get in touch with you?
They can email me, my first name, Gretheline, at gmail.com, or also they can look at the website for BayPath, and we're on Facebook. I actually manage the Facebook page for BayPath Practical Nursing, and I always put all the stories out there because I think it's good to inspire people. If they see it, then they'll know it's possible. It will happen.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Gretheline, I've learned a lot from you during this wonderful time. I've learned about the Practical Nursing Academy and this, almost like a niche area that we don't normally talk. We always talk about the CNA, then we talk about the RN, BSRN, and MS, master's degree in nursing. But not this wonderful option. So I am glad to have learned from you. And I hope that our audience was able to learn a lot also from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any wonderful plug from you regarding the Filipino American community and some Filipino activities that are happening or will be happening in the New England area in the next few weeks or in the next few months? Anything that you're working on?
A brand new nonprofit group that was formed this year is the Harvard Square Philippine American Alliance, and we had the first Filipino American Festival at Harvard Square just this October. So there's more things in store. We're hoping to get the first street food festival, Filipino street food festival, coming up soon. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. I am looking forward for the Filipino street food. I've heard about the dollar hits, the street food that's happening in New York, and the original was in somewhere in California, but here nearly
in New
on
England. And
wow.
In New England and possibly around Harvard Square. So
wow. So quack. What else?
Balloon.
Isaw, fishballs,
fishball, yeah.
The chicken feet.
Yeah, Adidas they call it, I guess.
Adidas. Adidas and all great things. Wow. All right. Wonderful. Well, Gretheline, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you for all the things that you do for your students, for the BayPath PNA, Practical Nursing Academy, and most especially for the greater good of the Filipino and Filipino Americans here in New England. May you continue to be a blessing to everybody, and may you continue to shine in everything that you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. On behalf of the new channel and Once a Teacher, Always a Teacher, our heart is filled with gratitude for your presence for this wonderful time. So thanks again, Gretheline.
Thank you.
All right. And to our folks right there, thank you for being with us. We will see you again next time. Until then, bye for now.